Welcome back to Trekyards, everyone. I'm Captain Foley,
Hello, Commander Cockness.
and today we're talking about the Runaway. Accelerated ion propulsion, titanium chassis, hollow steering, and my personal favorite, hold on to your butt grab handles.
Do you want to know my personal favourite part, though?
Absolutely.
11 mother effing cup holders.
And leather seats. Why are there 11 cup holders for 4 seats?
I didn't build the thing, Stuart. Don't ask me.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about the Runaway from episode 4 of Prodigy called Dreamcatcher. This is a land vehicle, and it's pretty damn cool, actually.
It's like the Argo on speed, or on dirt roads, which is already very dirt roady a vehicle. So we have set a precedent that Trek uses cars, or at least, and everything deserves a shout in terms of when you need it in the function of the scene and the situation. And I'm sure this thing could be converted to hover anyway. So vehicles themselves aren't silly to have wheels. But yeah, got a reasonably fair shout in the episode. We got this hell of a "we love it" reveal from the cast and the CG people, and it kind of goes around the scene. It is a focus of the episode, but once they kind of sing its praises, it kind of becomes a secondary piece. It's not the crux of the story, and I quite like that. So, what was your sort of interpretation of it and first thoughts?
I didn't know how I was going to feel about it, but I really enjoyed the detail they put into it, the amount we saw it. Like, it wasn't just a one and done kind of thing. Like, we saw a lot of detail for it, and kind of felt, like we knew it by the end of the episode, which was great. It is a cool looking vehicle. As I've stated, it has a very Thundercats or Thunder Tank kind of vibe almost. The same shapes, but just put treads on the back.
It's worth pointing out that they did actually release some online renders of the thing, so we can look at a full, clean, clear, beautiful view. So thanks, Prodigy team, for releasing them, which is unlike the current Trek teams. And we thank them for their generosity to the fan community, because boy, it's all easier to see it when it's a nice, clean showroom style render.
Although, if it taken out of context, I wouldn't say this was Starfleet at all. This actually this has the art design, as does a lot of things in Prodigy, of like the Netflix Lost in Space show. This definitely feels like it belongs in that universe. Like, one of the things that would just make it stand out is on one of those long arms, put a delta with a banner that says United Federation of Planets. Boom. Instantly more Starfleet.
And yes, I know we're now advocating for deltas, where we are often on record saying no deltas in terms of you only do it on the underwear, on the pads, on the toothbrushes, and that's literally all real examples. However, this is a vehicle, and so it should have a red pennant delta with Federation of Planets and the name. That is, I'm shocked it's missing. There's an obvious place for it, and it would really set the thing off. To give that red accenting. I guess the X-ray hasn't really got that either, but this is not a Protostar exclusive. Why would it be, necessarily? Why would you design this for the Protostar? This has nothing to do with the drive system. So this is just one of the data... Because we assume it was printed by the ship, so it's one of the database ships. So it's a Starfleet design or Federation design. Because I know in our review I said, this to me doesn't scream Starfleet, and the fact there's no pennant would imply that. But it's Federation, because Starfleet doesn't really do ground vehicles. It beams, or shuttles, whereas civilians need a lot more varied things. And so, why would you need, if there's already a great design in a land vehicle made by Alpha Centauri, use that design, it works. So I'm inclined to think Federation, which just means human-esque, but I wouldn't say Starfleet. But then again, Argo doesn't look Starfleet either, but Argo is also a really weird example. So, but I didn't Argo the Jeep, because the shuttle's a good shuttle, but the Jeep.
Yeah, and it's funny because most you just beam to where you need to go instead of landing a ship and taking a ground vehicle. Like, the need of a ground vehicle in Star Trek isn't really there a lot of times. We did see them used in lower decks as well, and that context makes sense because you're second contact, you've put some people on the planet, they got to move back and forth. You don't necessarily have a ship in orbit because it might have to take off, so you can't really be beaming site to site. So it kind of makes sense for short distances.
And in fairness, that was purely plot convenience, because they couldn't have beamed from place to place on the planet and not be noticed. They could drive and get away with it. So it was purely that's a cheap, we get out of jail free. And you can't have a vehicle chase through a space dock thing. But I do like it. I think it's a phenomenal Mass Effect vehicle, even with the blue paint scheme, which is subtle, but it's wonderfully done, and sort of the angular but not too angular shapes. Gorgeous Mass Effect, and it honestly looks like it could be right out of the new thing. I probably assume whoever designed this is a fan of Mass Effect, because it feels extremely influenced by that, and you're at Lost in Space as well, although this has more of a... So Lost in Space is very advanced NASA vibe. This has more of an advanced mechanical, not warrior, but industrial vibe, whereas Lost in Space is slightly more NASA. It's a very slight distinction, but I would just, if I was making a very classification-y.
We didn't learn too much about the vehicle. 4 seats, as we said, and also the canopy, the front part, is actually force field, not necessarily, transparent aluminum or anything. So that's really cool as well. But yeah, I really like the design. It does feel very video gamey though.
But arguably, Prodigy is the closest to a video game we're going to get, because it's 3D animated graphics. The whole thing's a cutscene. I will say the one thing that kind of surprised me, and I was absolutely waiting for it, and I'm hoping in part 2, they actively call out impulse engines, right? I'm waiting for this thing to impulse into the bay using special drive, because I was waiting for that moment. I was expecting at the end that would be the driving up a rock thing. And
Yeah, well, the impulse they mentioned was impulse steering, which was kind of an odd discussion. But anyway, we haven't seen transporters at all on this ship, or even mention of them. So I think it's going to be something that's going to be needed for a ship that lands.
Well, there's a ramp and everything.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely a functional space. I'm also wondering now, I'm again analysing it with you is different to reviewing the show. Its purpose to me seems odd in that the canopy is tiny. It only fits 4 people. There's no visible cargo space. There's a lot of excess room being used, negative space. So to me, this feels purely a planetary expedition thing without any intent to bring back cargo, which is why then having the impulse drive makes sense. It's designed to be fast, quick, all-terrain. The 2 things can go up and down, the 2 front things to take elevation. So to me, it speaks to very much a fast, high-octane, explorer craft.
It's cool because it's got like a fast drag racer look to it.
It does.
But at the same time, it looks like those front arms could just go down so that the whole top canopy raises up so you can get higher and you can get over rougher terrain as well. Like, it looks like it has a multi-purpose feel for that, for different terrain, and that's perfectly acceptable.
And I'm going to bet that, because the way it looks, that the canopy could itself be swapped out with other canopies. Because there's so much negative space there that you could easily double the size of that canopy, make a cargo version, and keep the same frame and just change the top bit. Because if it's all replicated and unreplicated, you can do that. And that'd be a really neat, all-purpose vehicle. You can change the main structure.
Well, I mean, the front forks are very similar to the Millennium Falcon. You could have tractor beam emitters in there and actually carry crates or cargo containers or anything between those front forks, right?
Yeah. Wouldn't necessarily want to, but yes, that is true.
Anything's possible. Let us know your thoughts on this thing. It is called the Runaway, which is an interesting name considering all the kids are basically runaways at this point. But very cool. Looking forward to seeing more of it. Let me know your thoughts down below. We really like reading those and having you guys participate. And if you want to participate more, join the channel, subscribe, and make sure you join our lives.
And if you want to support us directly, which we do sort of need to keep doing this, all these great shows every single often day, but definitely a week. Let's support us on Patreon, PayPal, join the channel via YouTube, or Super Chat during the same live Stuart just mentioned. And we love that because you get to have a direct conversation with us. And we value that because we are here learning, growing, working, talking to you guys. So if you can, even $5 once in a while, it does all mount up. So thank you in advance. We really mean it.
That's right. So until next time, guys, I'll say he's Commander Cocktail.
He is the snazzy, zooming, sleek Captain Foley.
That's right.
Mm.
Bye, guys.